The Florida Podcast Network, the voice of Florida. Hey guys, it is Jemmy and Glenn, and we are headed into... Where are we going?
We're going to Big Cat Rescue.
Woohoo! We're so excited!
Welcome to Finding Florida, the podcast that takes you from country to the coast. Join your tour guides, an unlikely pair, city girl Jemmy and country boy Glenn, as they explore the amazing sights and sounds of the Sunshine State.
So we have our big Riverwalk tour tomorrow. That is going to be our exciting 7th adventure. And now we're heading into Big Cat, and we are so excited. Everyone I've told that we're coming here is like super jealous. I don't know about you, but everybody I've told has been super jealous that we're coming to Big Cat today. What are you most excited to see today, Glenn? Lions, tigers? What?
All of the above.
Big Cat Rescue is one of the largest accredited sanctuaries dedicated entirely to big cats. Situated on 67 acres in Tampa, Florida, we provide a permanent home for a variety of species of rescued exotic cats, including tigers, lions, leopards, cougars, lynx, bobcats, servals, and more.
So we are here at Big Cat Rescue with their PR director since 2011, Miss Susan Bass. Thank you so much for having us here. We're about to start our tour. We are so excited.
Yeah, we are.
Hey, well, it's exciting to have you here.
How long has this place been around?
Big Cat Rescue actually started in early 1992, so we're in our 26th year now, although the early years were nothing like it is now. At this point, we have 70 acres and about 75 big cats.
How has it evolved over the years?
It's evolved over the years. Initially, our founder, Carol Baskin, owned about 45 acres here. And this was before the mall, before the McDonald's. Now kind of, civilization's come around us, so it was in the middle of nowhere. And she never had any plans to start a sanctuary. She actually owned the land and went to an animal auction to get a couple llamas. I always say to greenbelt the property, free lawnmowers. And
A lot of people think that about llamas.
yeah. So while she was waiting for those to come up to bid, there was a young bobcat that was being auctioned off. And the man that owned it was holding it. It was terrified. It was crying out. And in the audience, the man next to Carol was actually bidding on the bobcat. And she was like, asked him, why are you bidding on a bobcat?
Yeah, what are you going to do with that?
Aren't they
Right.
mean?
Yeah.
What are you planning on doing?
Probably not a good idea. What's going on?
Yeah, right. And he told her, I'm a taxidermist.
Ooh.
So, yes, that's the exact...
So she outbid the man, I bet.
Yes, she
And then
did.
went, what do I do with the bobcat?
Good for her.
Good. You can tell the story here. You tell the story.
I can guess the story.
Right, exactly. She made sure she was the highest bidder.
I bought horses
Sounds like
that
the act
too.
now,
Yeah.
think later.
Exactly. Came back and she named the young bobcat Windsong, and that kind of started the whole thing.
Wow.
Okay, but what do you do when you get home with a bobcat and go, okay, now what?
Right. Well,
You build a sanctuary.
yeah. These days you would Google what to
To
do
do
with a
with a
bobcat.
Right.
But you can't
Not
do that
92.
in 1992.
No.
Right. So the only people that Carol had to talk to were local people who actually were breeders of big cats. And they told her what turned out to be a bunch of lies, but she didn't know any better at the time. They said, you can make a lot of money by selling them. And so she believed them and didn't know any better. But what bobcats do is they will sort of be loyal to one person. And Windsong was very loyal to Carol, but hated her husband at the time.
Oops. Oh, boy.
So,
At the time, he's no longer around.
Did Windsong fix that problem?
No. Yeah. But he wanted his own bobcat. Rather than say, this is a bad idea, he decided to
Add to the
Yeah, the
situation.
first one hates me. I'm sure the second one will love me.
He wanted his own bobcat. So Carol, her husband, and Carol's daughter, they literally found, somehow pre-internet, a place in Minnesota that was selling bobcat kittens. And when they got up there, they realized it was actually a fur farm. They had 56 bobcat and lynx kittens.
Oh my gosh.
there were
She goes from
pelts
having
on
to
the
deal with a
side.
taxidermist to then a fur farm.
Exactly.
She's like, this must be a sign after sign. I'm headed into my calling, I think.
Yeah, exactly. True. I know. She never had any idea. So again, she was horrified at the fact that the man told her that just a few of them would be sold as pets and he was going to slaughter the rest of them for fur coats when they were a year old.
I didn't even know they did that with bobcats, to be honest.
Yeah, they do. And, and the lynx especially.
Yeah, I knew about the lynx.
coat.
Yeah.
And the thing, too, with the cats, which people don't realize, is if you're going to make a coat, they only use the belly fur. So to make
This
a
is the
whole
softest.
coat, it's like 30 or 40 40 bobcats or lynx or whatever. The reason is actually because that's the only sort of similar color on all bobcats or all lynx.
Everything else is
They might
different.
have, they might be silver or they might be gray, but their tummies are usually pretty similar, so you can make a whole coat. So Carol said to the man, she said, I will purchase all 56 of these bobcat and lynx kittens.
Wow.
Take them home with me if you promise to go out of business and you'll stop doing it.
Wow.
And she literally did that in 93 and 94 for all of the fur farms that she could find and shut them down in America. There were no more in America. And to this day, other than one that we think might be under the radar kind of being a fur farm, but there's no real proof, and they won't, of course, won't admit it. We think that she's really closed them all down.
Wow, that is a woman jumping into the deep end of the pool.
No
Yep,
kidding.
all of a sudden she had 57.
Without a life vest.
Started with one bobcat.
Right.
How many animals are here?
Oh, yeah, good question.
There's about 75 right now. We have, generally, we're the permanent home for cats once they get here. They're going to live out the rest of their lives here once we've rescued them. Generally, they come from horrible situations where they've been abandoned, neglected, abused,
Are these
starved.
mostly people who have thought it was a great idea to get a lion and then discovered it wasn't?
That's
Or
how
is
it
it
was a few years
circuses
ago.
or just a little bit of everything?
Lately, in the last few years, it's primarily people that have lost their USDA exhibitor license, or authorities have stepped in and confiscated the cats, or they've gone under themselves. And not some pets now, but not as much as it used to be. But as I was saying before, we do rehab and release native Florida wild bobcats that we get calls about that have hit by a car, or orphan bobcat kittens are found with no mother around for a few days. And so we do have a rehab section way in the back of the sanctuary so that those cats don't imprint and get used to people. And we will raise them, teach them how to hunt, and then release them back here in Florida.
And you have all kinds of cats here.
Yes, we do. We have everything from the big lions and tigers to small bobcats and ocelots. Most of these cats are in captivity because somebody thought it would be a good idea to have them as a pet or use them as entertainment or in a circus or a zoo or such.
That leads to the next question. Is it legal to own any wild animal? What's the law?
Yeah, what are the guidelines with that?
That's the problem.
Is that where
There's
those USDA exhibitor licenses come
Right,
into play?
yes. There's a whole patchwork of laws, which is why we're trying to actually pass right now, we being Big Cat Rescue, a federal bill called the Big Cat Public Safety Act, which is currently going through Congress right now, to actually stop the breeding of these cats, for the most part, in captivity, because there's nowhere to release them
So
here
I
in
could
America.
own a tiger without a license?
You'd have to have, well, it depends on what state you're in.
Okay.
There are about 30 or
State
so
of
states.
denial.
Yeah. There's about 30 states, including Florida, where technically it's illegal to own a big cat like a lion or a tiger or a leopard or a jaguar. But there's an easy way to get around that, a loophole that was inadvertently, worked into the law back in the day that says if you have an exhibitor license, I'm a small roadside zoo. This is not my pet lion. I actually am using this part of my livelihood.
Oh.
It's $40 to get the license, and the hard questions are what's your name and your address.
And nobody shows up to ever check.
They show up about once a year. There's only about 100 USDA inspectors to inspect about 90,000 places throughout America,
Whoa.
including labs, sanctuaries,
But
zoos.
still.
Think about it. So, and the problem is, if a USDA inspector comes to your facility and maybe they see, some rotting wood or something that would allow the cat to escape, or a cat that's not getting proper vet care, or no veterinarian listed to be on record, they'll cite the place, but then they don't come back for another year to check on it.
Right.
And when they do come back, if it hasn't been fixed, they just cite them again.
Yeah.
So
they just pay the fines and
right.
go away.
They just pay the fines. They actually look at it as a cost of doing business.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, the cats are suffering and sometimes die for years and years and years in these
Where do they
deplorable
get them? Is
facilities.
it an underground trade to get your hands on a lion or a tiger? Or,
It is
how
a
do you
real
get
tight-knit
one?
community.
Not that we
I
want to
bet it
give
is.
away the information. That's not what I meant. That's not my
You don't
intention
wanna
with the
know who.
question.
No, I know what you mean. There actually, until just this year, was a guide called the Animal Finder's Guide, where you could literally list, I'm looking for a lion, or I have a lion to sell.
Wow.
People can go on Craigslist. It is easier to buy an exotic cat in America than it is to go to your local humane society and buy a puppy or a kitten, because they actually ask information. You have to show your driver's license and that kind of thing.
Wow.
That's-
To adopt a horse out of a rescue, they come out and check your place, and there's all kinds of things.
Nope, not with cats.
Amazing.
Wow.
Well, let's go see some of them.
Let's go see.
Yeah, come on.
All
Yay.
right.
We have a memorial wall. This is part of it. Every cat that's ever been here, whether they've been here for 3 days after we rescued them and they were in such bad shape they had to be euthanized, or they lived here for 20 years. They get a plaque with their picture and their name and the years that they lived.
Wow.
And then, it's the person that purchases the plaque, and their remains are in here. They're all cremated after necropsy's done.
No way.
And so we want them to still be able to tell their stories, their
Oh,
heartbreaking
wow.
stories.
Andy, lunch is
Even though
right
they
in front of
passed
you.
on.
Oh, just missed it.
Yeah, the big cats don't really care about the
Squirrels.
tiny little squirrels.
Aren't they lucky
That's not
then?
even
huh?
enough for
Yeah, it's
appetizer.
not worth. it's
No
not worth
way.
messing around.
Get stuck in their teeth. That's about it.
Oh yeah. Tigers love the water, and so these two tigers actually have partial access to our tiger lake, as we call it. And there is a barrier in between because you wouldn't want two male tigers to be able to touch each other. That would not
And,
go well.
and well,
They were
for one of
rescued
them.
from the same place a couple of years ago in Colorado. But Andy can go down that side, and Seth, as you see, there's Seth. Hi, big boy. Look, he's looking up.
Wow.
Oh,
Look at that.
oh my gosh, he's beautiful.
You're real careful. You drop your camera.
Oh, yeah,
You're not
no,
getting
no.
it.
They're not getting
No
back.
way.
That's right.
Oh, he's
Oh, look at you
beautiful.
looking up.
He is beautiful.
Yes, he's our biggest tiger, actually. He probably weighs about 500 pounds.
His name is Seth, you
really
said?
big for a tiger, isn't he?
Yeah. Years ago, here comes the Andy.
Oh,
He
Andy.
would come out, I told you. But then I say that, and he's,
Right,
he's
right,
still
right.
I want him to do most
Right.
of the time. Hi, big boy. That's chuffing. When he chuffs back, that's hello in tiger.
Oh, really?
Look at the size of that tongue.
He's about 400 pounds.
Look at those paws.
No. And when you're near
Jeez.
them, like we have an on-site hospital, so when they were sedated, you put your own hand up to their paw, and it's like a dinner plate.
Oh my gosh, I'm sure.
Oh, you're such a good boy.
For half a second, I thought it was just the little fence, and I was like, wait a minute.
Right. See that paper bag down by his feet? That's not just like trash in there.
Oh, what's that?
It's actually a form of enrichment. Cats love things as simple as catnip or cinnamon in a bag.
Yeah,
Or
so that goes for
paper
big
tube.
cats too, not just the little
Yeah.
ones.
We have
funny.
all kinds of videos
That's so
on our
interesting.
YouTube channel.
I was gonna
Cinnamon's
say-
about
actually
things
really
that
good
little
for
cats
them.
like that big cats like.
So they're enrichment.
Right, exactly. Anything like that
Interesting.
is enrichment. They have permanent enrichment, like the red ball that he's got in the water there, or the keg. Seth's a big drinker. Yeah. And then they get seasonal enrichment, which they get like Christmas trees at Christmas
there
time.
we go.
They get pumpkins, which they're not that excited about. But their favorite holiday would be Thanksgiving because they get butterball turkeys, just like
Oh,
you or
heck
I
yeah.
might eat.
It's my favorite too. I get it. I get it.
Andy, who's a good boy? Oh, did we
Move
wake
this
you
way a
up?
little bit.
He
Hey,
looks
Jemmy,
so sleepy.
move this way a little
Oh,
bit. There you go.
oh, he's gorgeous.
Cinnamon's
Yeah.
actually really good for him. We
He's
feed all our
beautiful.
horses cinnamon.
Really?
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, cool. Yeah, and even like just long paper tubes, we'll spray spices on them, and some of them just roll around on them and drool and just have the best time. And then what we
Very
do
cool.
too is we cut up, a couple hundred pounds of red meat every day for the food. We figured out that while the volunteers are cutting up all the red meat, there's blood runoff. And so we take it and we freeze it with water inside little cups.
Make
and make
bloodsickles.
Popsicles, oh my gosh, I love it.
And sometimes they're made out of fish. They get like a martini, sardini martini.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious.
Sickles, but the most popular ones are the blood ones.
That's
and it's a really
hilarious.
nice, refreshing, people would like popsicles, especially when it's hot. But some of our older cats that need extra liquids in their diet, they get a blood sickle every single day because they lick it and it
Interesting,
gets some
yeah.
more water.
How long do cats live?
Right.
Well,
In
yes,
the
yeah.
wild, big cats, exotic cats live to be about 10 to 12. But here we've had cats live all the way up to be 25.
Wow.
Because we have an on-site hospital. They have amazing vet care. We feed them the highest quality food. They don't have any predators trying to kill them.
That's true.
And they don't have to catch their own
bonus.
prey. There's two bobcats up on the
Oh,
platform there. That's Max and Mariette.
oh, they're so beautiful.
Big cats are generally solitary, but if you're stuck in a cage for your entire life and you
Right.
can't, roam like you're supposed to, it's nice to have a friend.
That's
especially
true.
For the smaller cats, the bobcats like it. We actually introduced these two, whereas when we rescue cats, if they've lived together and they enjoy being together, we will keep them together, but of course we don't breed. That's our main, qualification.
Yeah.
So if it's a boy and a girl, we'll separate them initially and take them to the hospital and get them spayed and neutered, and then, yes, it's
And most of these
exhausting.
cats are used to heat. I mean, they live in Africa and they used to
Right.
heat, right? So
Right.
the heat here isn't a problem?
No, we have two Canadian linx, and of course they're used to Canadian,
Right.
Canada weather, and so they have an inside air conditioned area that they can go into, but they really aren't in there very much. So
I know house cats sleep a lot, so I'm
Yes.
assuming the same is true for big cats.
They sleep about 20 hours a day.
Oh my gosh,
Yep.
that's the life. I know what I want to come back as.
breezes off the, and they like being up high and being able to see everything. just like
Yeah,
house cats.
yeah. This is awesome.
So I always tell people that, as
Wow.
a sanctuary, everything we do, the cats come first. So you're going to see the cats as we walk around that want to be seen at that exact moment that we walk by their enclosure.
Do you use a lot of volunteers here or not?
Yes,
Yeah.
we're almost an exclusively volunteer run. We only have about 15 paid staff people. Duchess, what you doing?
Oh, that's a great name. Here she comes.
Come in. Hi. Gosh, y'all are going to think I'm like the cat whisperer.
I know.
Yeah, it looks
Usually
like
they
it to
don't-
me.
Usually they don't come for me
I'm
like that.
impressed.
I don't feed them, so I'm not that exciting.
Right.
You know?
So sometimes you see videos of people who, have a very close relationship with a cat that they've raised themselves, and I see them rolling around with them and all of
Right.
that stuff. I mean,
Right.
is there a point where they do get that tame and that domesticated?
Nope,
Yeah.
doesn't happen. And they're so strong. They're 12 times stronger than people.
Oof.
So, even if they did actually like you and they just lovingly kind of
Right.
swatted you, they could literally break your neck.
Yeah.
So those kind of people,
So
we
note to
really,
self.
we just roll our eyes and hope that, nothing happens to those people, obviously. But it really sends the wrong message that these cats
Yeah.
can be tamed, that they can be pets.
Yeah.
These are alpha predators. They are the top of the food chain. They want to kill you.
All right, we are in front of Keisha. Tell us a little bit about Keisha right now.
Keisha, as you notice, is missing most of her tail. She came from a horrible place in New York, a small town called Sinclairville. And as we talked about USDA licenses earlier, her owner actually had her USDA license taken away, which is almost unheard of. It's really easy, super easy to get a USDA license, but it's really hard to have them taken away. So you know that she was one of the worst if she had her license taken away. But rather than relinquish her cats, she had her daughter sign up for a USDA license that started all over again.
And passed the cats.
Yep,
How
passed
many
the cats
how
down
many
to her.
animals were in her possession?
She probably had at least a dozen. We initially were going to take in 4 tigers because, again, when tigers need to be rescued or whatever cat it is, we don't have room to take them all in, and it's a huge financial expense
Of course.
as well. So we agreed to take 4 in. These cats were living in deplorable conditions when our rescuers actually went up there to pick them up in a big semi-trailer. And they were living with a rock, like a gravelly floor. So they didn't even have a nice, comfortable place to lay down. They really could have broken out
Probably
had
really
they
hard on
tried.
their paws, too.
Very hard, yes. A lot of these places have cement, but I'd never seen rocks before. So when we got up there, the woman had just abandoned the cats. They were all starving to death.
Oh my
Once
gosh.
the USDA...
I know you've seen that with horses.
Yeah,
now.
all the
Well, what
time.
happened was, I kind of skipped that part, was when her daughter got the USDA license, she had a fight with her daughter, and the daughter said, I'm not going to renew it, forget you. And so the authorities in this city in New York wanted to make an example. And so they got with, I think it was the Humane Society of the United States, to figure out who can take these cats. And she had wolves, she had bears, she had a whole collection of animals. So we got up there assuming we were going to take in 4 tigers. One had already passed away from starvation. The 3 that were left were skin and bones, very skinny. Keisha was missing her tail. Zeus had a real weird eye problem. His eye was all glazed over. And Kimba was in such bad shape that when we brought her back, we actually had to euthanize her about 2 weeks later. She was in complete kidney failure. She was
Wow.
the oldest of the 3.
Wow.
So most of the cats here have come from horrible conditions. And these aren't like the weird exceptions. This is the norm in America for people who keep these cats, whether it's a pets, a roadside zoo, just a collection, etc. This woman was breeding her cats. Keisha, who you see here, is actually the sister and daughter of Zeus.
Oh, jeez.
A lot of inbreeding. It's a lot cheaper to breed your own tigers when you want to have them than to actually go purchase more.
So animals the same as people, inbreeding bad.
Inbreeding's very bad, very
Okay.
bad. Yes.
All right. So now, as far as feeding all of these animals, what do they eat?
They are obligate carnivores, which means they have to eat meat, and that's the only thing they eat. They could care less about vegetables.
Yeah, I really don't like broccoli. I
No,
don't
they'd
either,
be
so I'm
fine on
with
the
them.
Atkins
I'm with them,
diet
yeah.
for like their whole life. Exactly.
I thought I had trouble getting my 6-year-old to eat a vegetable.
Right. Now she's going to tell you, I'm a tiger. I don't eat vegetables. Exactly. So we go through about 300-400 pounds of red meat a day.
Whoa!
Or meat a day. They don't eat just red meat. They eat turkey, they eat chicken, they eat rabbits, they eat rats, anything that's meat, that's protein, if you think about it.
I saw a squirrel run right in front of the one's nose, and it didn't do a thing. It just laid there.
We tried to get
an
on.
appetizer, a squirrel.
Right. We do feed them every single day, so they're really not,
yeah.
extra hungry. And some of them are actually picky eaters, believe it or not.
Okay, I have to ask because I'm a horse person, and I've cleaned up after horses for 30 years.
Oh boy, I know what's coming.
So obviously there's cat cleanup too. Do you clean the cages every day? Or
Right.
anything?
I don't personally.
Yeah.
Not me. But yes, that's something if you're a volunteer here or one of
You're on
our
poop
interns,
patrol?
right? You're definitely on poop patrol. It's kind of over for the day now. We might see somebody walking around, but of course we never go inside the enclosures.
Right.
That would be not
Bad.
only crazy dangerous, but also just disrespectful of the cats because there are places where people will go in or they'll touch the cats. We think that sends the wrong message. But no matter how large an enclosure a tiger has, or even in the wild, their territory, they will mark their territory every single day with urine and feces within about 10 feet of the edge. So here, what we do is our people walk around. They have a 10-foot pole with a hook on the end. When they spot some feces, they drag it towards them with the pole.
Massive pooper scooper.
Yeah, right.
Well, that works.
There you go.
Yes. So every single enclosure is cleaned every single day.
So you have to buy all that food too. The care
Yes,
and
we do.
upkeep for this must be an incredible place. Are you funded donations? How does all that work?
Just donations. We're a 50c3 nonprofit, so we get no government funding or anything. We're strictly by donations. And we do have tours of the sanctuary every afternoon except for Thursdays. So some of that, of course, pays for it as well, but mainly it is through private donations. Our food bill annually is $200,000.
Whoa.
It costs about $10,000 a year for one tiger or lion, the biggest of the cats, to have food and vet care.
And what's the employee to volunteer ratio?
I'm not a math person, but we have about 15 paid staff and about 130 volunteers.
Wow.
So 10%.
Wow.
Yeah.
Our founder, Carol, has realized, over the years that people love exotic cats. And whether they live locally here in the Tampa Bay area and they want to volunteer, commute, or they want to be an intern, they live on the property for 3 months and they apply to come here and be an intern. We don't have to pay people to take care of the cats. She only has to pay people to do things like public relations, marketing, finance, all that kind of stuff.
Is there a favorite? I know you have cams too, right?
Cameras? Oh, yes, we have a lot of
A
cameras.
lot of webcams. People can watch them.
Yes.
Is there a favorite? Is there one that people tend to gravitate toward?
Really depends. We have a new Jaguar. He's new to us. He just got here in December, and we're actually headed that way. In a minute, I want to show you Manny.
Cool.
And he has just become, our hearts just stopped when he came out of his transport cage. He is amazing and intense and just stares at you.
Oh, my
And just
gosh.
so beautiful.
Okay, has the movie caused everybody to ask if you have a panther?
Black Panther.
She's only seen it 12 times.
Only 12.
I've seen it once, and it was really good. But it's funny. As soon as I sat down, I was like, oh, that's why it's called Panther. Oh, no. Because people are going to start doing. There's actually no cat called a panther.
Really?
Especially even a black panther. Like, we used to get that all the time. What do you have any black
Is
panthers?
it a puma? Is it what is it?
Right. It's a leopard.
A leopard.
The only black cats are either leopards or jaguars. But to make things
The
more
movie was
confusing,
lying to us.
I feel like the whole world is wrong. Next time we're
Panthera.
going to find out the earth is flat.
Yeah, exactly. The word panthera is kind of an overarching word for exotic cats. So that's kind of where
I
they
didn't
got
know
it.
that.
And then, of course, to make things more confusing, here in Florida, we do call our cougars panthers.
Panthers, right.
So, yes, but just straight out panther.
I mean, there's a sports team and everything.
Yeah,
I know. Exactly. Yes.
that all lies.
All lies.
99.9%, including us, of the people in this country go, why?
I know. Exactly. Right. And that's why, we are working really hard to pass this
I really
this
don't
federal
want a
bill.
lion in my backyard.
Right. And we think once we actually get to a vote in the House on this, the last time something similar was passed, like in 2003, it passed unanimously.
gonna
because
vote
people are
against
like,
it?
right.
I mean, it's kind of an easy one for the congressman.
Not really. You'd be surprised at people
I'm
lobbying
surprised every
against
day
it.
by votes that I see.
Yeah.
coming
I know.
through.
Yeah,
There was one
exactly.
in Louisiana a couple of days ago that I was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, no, things are, especially right now, things are crazy.
Like,
Especially for
It
animals.
involved
Yeah.
animals, and I could not believe 10 people voted against it. It was
no.
mind-boggling.
We have the
Oh,
same
no.
thing on the horse side.
I hear you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's the same thing with
Yeah.
the Mustangs.
We go up, a group of us every year to the Humane Society of the United States. Actually, every other year they have a big conference taking action for animals. And the last couple times, there's, bills that are about to be close to being pushed over the edge, federal bills to be passed, are the ones that we talk about to the different Congress people, the senators and the House reps that day. Oh, Manny, look at you.
Oh, you're
Why, he's
going
a
for
favorite?
pic. He is beautiful.
Yeah, he's stunning.
You're a
We just
ham.
got him in
Oh,
December.
my
He's actually
goodness.
from a zoo in Omaha that decided they weren't going to exhibit him anymore. And so luckily, they wanted to find a sanctuary that was accredited by the Global Federation of Animal Sanctuaries, such as us.
Uh-huh.
So we agreed to take him in, as well as an Amur leopard that are highly endangered. And she's around the other corner. Oh, look at him! Look, see?
Gosh.
It's
He's
amazing
dead.
to me how cat characteristics they have, from the little
Oh,
cats
yeah.
to the big cats.
We always say a cat is a cat is a cat.
Yeah,
Yep.
just they have the
So
same
much.
looks, this whole same look and
Oh
everything.
yeah. And you see how he's got a pretty short tail.
Oh, and he's peeing.
And yes, he's peeing. Oh, he's marking his territory. We're a little close.
It's so quiet back here. It's hard to believe that you're in the
Yeah.
city. I mean,
I know. Where's my girl? This is my favorite cat. Risa! Oh, here she goes!
oh,
Risa!
there she is.
Oh, yeah.
She's my girl.
Oh,
She likes you.
Where's my baby?
that's adorable.
Where's my baby?
Oh,
She actually was declawed as a baby, and they botched the job. So her claws are always growing in under the skin in weird directions.
Oh, poor thing.
Hi, sweetie. Hi, my love.
She's so pretty.
Meow.
what is she again?
She's a cougar, which
She's
is
a
the
cougar?
same cat as a mountain lion, a Florida panther, a puma, a catamount, a screamer. Throughout North America, they have about 10, 15 different names, amazingly.
So we're at our final stop here before we call it a day at Big Cat Rescue. And so we saw a couple of your favorites. Tell us about your favorites. And they showed off today, too.
Yes, we did. I'm really chatty, being the PR director here, I guess. And so the two cats that are my favorite cats are both really chatty, too. We saw Risa, who's an elderly cougar. She's about 23 years old, and with cougars or any exotic cats, you times their age by 6 to equal human age, so you can see how old she is.
Oh, yeah.
And she walked around for us. She came from horrible condition. She'd actually been declawed as a baby, probably not by a vet and without anesthesia. We actually have to sedate her once a year and have her nails clipped and that kind of thing.
Do you have a vet clinic here or vets that come in
We
here?
have a full hospital.
Oh,
It's
do you?
a full state-of-the-art hospital. Yes, we can do x-rays. We can do
So surgeries here, the whole thing. They don't have to leave here.
Right, exactly. It's only been open about 3 years. For the really big cats, the closest place until we had our own hospital was the University of Gainesville, 2 hours from here.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
So it was a long drive.
And that's
you
a
know,
lot of sedation.
Yeah.
What something or
yeah. Well, generally we don't sedate them to go in the transport, but it's very stressful on a cat,
Right.
especially
Absolutely.
a sick cat. That if they're taking them to the hospital to get them checked out, means they don't feel well in the first place.
Right.
And with most cats, they don't like to be in a car or in transport.
And I see that, a lot of your cats have such a story behind them. And that story can come with some pretty sad consequences for them physically. And it takes it takes a certain kind of person to want to care for these kind of cats and be here. So where do you guys find all your volunteers? And they're such wonderful, special people, I imagine. So where do they come from?
Absolutely. We really are dependent on volunteers and interns to run the facility. We couldn't do it with just the 15 or so paid staff members that we have. And locally here in the Tampa Bay area, we have about 130 different volunteers, and the minimum requirement is 4 hours a week. You can, of course, volunteer for more than that, and some people have been here for years. We have some volunteers that have been here for like 20 years.
Wow.
We're always looking for new people. You can learn a lot about our volunteer program if you literally bigcatrescue.org/volunteers. And then we have an intern program where people apply from all over the world for 3-month periods to come and stay here. And a lot of them, they won't leave. They'll re-up for level 2, level
On
3,
purpose,
level
or they end
4.
up in one of the cages?
No, they want to stay. They just fall in love with Tampa.
Yeah.
Some of them move here, and then they get,
Wow.
quote unquote, real jobs and become volunteers. So it's really important, and they do all of the cat care, which is cleaning the cats, working in the gift shop, raking, mowing, and guess the really fast, fun one is cleaning up the poop every day. Yes.
How did you get involved
Right.
here? How did you come to be here?
I've actually been the PR director here for 8 years, and I was with an advertising and PR agency here in Tampa that Carol Baskin and her husband Howard Baskin approached in like 2003 about changing the name. It used to be called Wildlife on Easy Street, which doesn't even tell you what kind of animals there are.
It could be interpreted a lot of different ways.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
There is some of that
Who
in
knows?
Tampa.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, exactly. It was some bar or something. So it came up with a new logo and that kind of thing. And I always stayed in touch with Howard and Carol. And then in early 2000, actually late 2010, I was kind of in between jobs and they needed a PR person. They finally got to the point where that financially they could afford a PR person. So it just worked out perfect.
They got a good one.
They did.
Oh,
We have to end today with the story of your water kitty that we just saw.
Oh, Priya.
Yeah.
Yes,
Princess
yes.
Priya.
Princess Priya. She's a tigress, and she is just amazing. She loves swimming in the water.
She did it for us. We're going to post that video on our Facebook page.
Cutie. She was having a good
She
time.
was splashing around. She loves it. In the morning, she swims pretty much every day. She's been here about a year and a half. She came from a horrible place in Colorado. The man actually owned, believe it or not, 75 tigers,
Oh my God.
30 other smaller cats, and about 14 bears.
It's unreal that this is going on.
Yes,
Who knew?
people have no idea.
No.
And that's why, we like to get information out and have people like you share it with your listeners to let people know this is happening. And that's why we want to pass the Big Cat Public Safety Act. And the best thing people can do if they want to help is actually text CATS, C-A-T-S, to 52886. And they'll get a text back from us with a link. And you put the link in and you just put your name and address. And it'll automatically dial your House of Representative. An aide will answer the phone. You just tell them, hey, I live in Florida and I don't think these cats should be kept in cages. They shouldn't be bred for lifetimes in cages to be abused and all the crazy things that you've heard these cats that have gone through before they got here.
What was that number again, real quick?
It's text CATS, C-A-T-S, to 52886.
And what's the bill called again?
The Big Cat Public Safety Act.
And
It's
what is
HR
that act
1818.
Accomplishing.
What will it do?
Yeah.
It will actually stop people from breeding these cubs and having the public have direct contact with the cub. Instead, it will say if you have a cub, it has to be 15 feet away from a person. So that denotes all the people that want to have, hold a little tiger cub or have their daughter hold a tiger cub.
So they breed them for a photo op for
They're
a
bred
few
for
months.
photo ops
Yeah.
for 3 months. Right.
And you guys don't only just rescue big cats, we found out. You guys also help rescue little teeny weeny ones. Tell us about that.
Yes, because we're in Tampa, we have an arrangement with our local Tampa Bay, Humane Society of Tampa Bay, and we foster domestic kittens. And so we have had about 600 kittens go through our
Oh my
program in
gosh.
the last 3 or 4 years. They,
Did they get nervous being here?
no,
Okay,
no.
just checking.
Inferiority issues.
Oh, no. They're kittens. They think they run the world.
That's true, no matter what
true.
size they are. You're right. You are right.
In fact, it's really exciting because, generally they're dropped off at the Humane Society, and Humane Societies around the country,
Right.
1 or 2 days old, generally without their mothers either. And so they would get sick, they would die. They don't have the resources to, bottle feed them every 2 hours.
Right.
And we do. We have interns who live here on the property. They go home at night and they're literally assigned a kitten, and it's their kitten until it gets 2 pounds and is adoptable and goes back to the Humane Society.
I had to figure out how do I volunteer from 4 hours away.
And when you have a break, you're more than welcome to go into the kitten cabana
with the kitties.
and play with the kitties because it
That's
socializes
awesome.
them.
Yeah.
All the cats that get adopted out, they all get adopted out from the Humane Society because they're so used to being around people. They're not skittish or scared.
That's really cool.
Now I have to
Yeah,
ask
it's
what,
cool.
because your pin says, ask me about the Call of the Wild. What is the Call of the
That's
Wild?
the Call of the Wild, the texting cat. We call that the Call of the Wild.
There you go.
And actually,
Very good.
you'll see that when somebody texts, they'll see we call it the Cat
How
of the
much
Wild.
support does this bill have? Is it,
It's doing really well. Right now in the House, we have 115 people who have co-sponsored the bill, which is amazing. And it continues to get more and more, interest from the different House of Representative members. So we are hopeful that, maybe not this year, maybe not next year, but in the next few years, that it will come to a vote in the House. And once it gets to the floor and they vote on it, we think it will definitely pass. Because like you said earlier, how is this even happening in
no-brainer.
America? How
Yeah.
are these cats living
Greed,
in,
money.
horrible
kinds of
conditions
stuff,
generally in backyards?
Terrible.
People, there's no exact number of how many of these cats are in people's backyards or living in roadside zoos in America, but it's estimated between 10 and 20,000.
Wow.
It's
Again, I
huge.
didn't know.
Right, and that's why we do these tours. We try to educate people on the plight of these cats in America, as well as what's going on with conservation and helping, wildcats.
What's the website?
BigCatRescue.org.
Thank you, Susan. You've been awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you for protecting and conserving Florida's iconic wildlife.